Joining us on the phone from the Lafayette Parish School Board, I'm Jeremy Hidalgo. Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going this morning, sir?
It's going great. It's good to be with you all. Sorry I couldn't be in the studio, but it's great to talk to you.
Well, we're excited to get the chance to be able to catch up with you. A lot of, kind of items on our agenda we've been kind of curious about. So thanks for doing it. I'm very excited by the board and the members now who really just go out of their way to be able to give answers to the folks that listen to us. I think that line of communication is real important. Maybe parents don't necessarily have the time to call school board members, but they can hear more about what you guys are thinking and doing if they can get it, here on KPEL. So thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. I believe it's part of our duty, and, we're always welcome to come on.
We want to talk to you. Want to kick off with an issue that I thought is pretty interesting. I guess about a week and a half or so ago, maybe a little bit longer now. I was reading something on the school board agenda talking about the school uniforms. And, there are three choices for the tops, three choices for the bottoms for Lafayette High School students. But then the disciplinary committee, they met and said, it's easier if we go to one option for shirts, one option for pants. Pick one color and have that one color stick for the shirts for that particular high school, and it's high school only. So I'm kind of curious, as the story kind of got out there, have you had a lot of feedback about this issue?
Well, I won't say I've had a lot of feedback, but of course I've had some, and I understand all aspects. One thing to remember here, I think, is the Discipline Committee, which, as you mentioned, that's the committee that's meeting to discuss this particular topic and many more. The Discipline Committee is made up of educators. It's made up of some, central office staff, but several principals and other educators are on that committee. So, I don't just take those recommendations lightly. I think that they come from the folks who are in the trenches. Of course, there's a reason that we have uniform, many reasons. But I do think that I've heard some interesting feedback from the public on this. And I think it needs to be taken into consideration. And we've got time to make changes. I mean, this is coming up in April. It can certainly be postponed if it needs to be, but it can also certainly be altered at that time.
So the decision was made weeks back to not ask voters in April to either yay or nay approve a tax measure as far as our schools go. And sales tax that's been down for at least going on, I believe, 10 months now, retail sales tax figures. So it's a situation where if we had a lot of money, we could do a lot more, but sure, we just don't have that pot of gold today. So how are we going to do some of the things that we need to do? In particular, we need a new high school on the south side of Lafayette. We need Lafayette High School. Where are we with these two ideas? Is the new facility happening on the south side of Lafayette?
Yes, the new facility is happening, and we can take the new facility and the other projects like the new Catherine Drexel, like expansion at Milton, and like potential expansion at Plantation, pretty much out of the mix as it relates to our tax revenue. That's bonding capacity that the school board has identified and has approved. Regarding the sales tax decrease, we're looking at about an average of 9% now. Mm-hmm. That is not a good number, Bernie and Rob. That's a bad number. And well, when I say a bad number, it's an accurate number, but it's a bad scenario. And I think the answer to your question is, how do we deal with our needs? 3 words: cut. It's really a bad situation. We keep hearing, we hear it. It's what we've heard for decades. We don't have enough money. Well, the bottom line is we don't have enough money. Our budget is comprised of 80 to 90% of our budget is salaries and benefits. So when you make cuts, I mean, where do you think the cuts have to be made when 80 to 90% of your budget is salaries and benefits? Mm-hmm. It's a hard thing to do.
Let me ask you, though, not only is it a hard thing to do, but how are you going to do that and retain good teachers if you do that?
Well, look, none of the cuts that have been proposed, nor do I believe they will be proposed, are going to be teachers. We have about 5,500 employees in the school system. About 2,500 of those are teachers. Now, look, we have to have buses. We have to have food service. We have to have janitorial. There are a lot of things that we have to have. We're just going to have to do more with less, is what I think we're going to see through this budget process.
doing more with less. I think everybody has to worry about that in their own home budget. So I think they see that as the reality. But some people would point at the school system itself and say, oh, there's too many people that work at that central office. Is it really a matter of that, or is that just kind of short-sighted thinking?
I'm not going to call it a myth, but I don't have a word for it. The bottom line is you cut central office out twice, and you still don't even put a dent in the deficit. The deficit is around $18 million. The number keeps changing, and I'm going to tell you why it keeps changing. It's not a moving target. It's not a number that was just thrown out of the sky. But the reason it keeps changing is, for example, just yesterday we got word that some MFP dollars that, we haven't seen an increase in MFP dollars in some time now, and those dollars were increased for this year, and we were just notified yesterday. So of course that impacts the bottom line of our budget in this year in a positive way. And so that's why the target keeps moving. But let's say it's hovering around $18 million, okay? That is a lot of money. Central office, I think, represents, $4 million or less. So, and look, do we want to cut central office? Do we need a superintendent? Do we need human resources? Do we need risk management? Of course. So, and those are just a couple of the examples. Do we want schools of choice? Of course, that's central office. So I think it's real easy to point to central office, but everyone who has not pointed directly, in a direct position. No one has been able to say cut this. They just say cut central office. Mm-hmm. Well, that's easy to say.
All right, let me ask you from that standpoint then. There was no way that a tax measure in April could have passed Lafayette Parish voters. There's just no way it could have happened. A year from now, maybe it possibly could. Do you think that the school board, the system as a whole, can they do enough between now and, say, maybe next year to improve their rating among people, that people will feel more confident in them, actually bumping up taxes and putting some more revenue there? Do you think y'all can build that confidence?
Well, I think some people may call me naive. I was definitely one out of 9 or maybe out of 8. There may be someone else on the board who would have agreed with me. I do believe that if we would have moved forward and charged forward, that we could have gotten the message out for this April. I think the people realize what's going on in our school system. And I know that we have changed the dynamic of the way the school system does business since this new board came on. And look, I'm not trying to throw stones at anyone in the past. The environment was what it was, but it's a different environment now. And we can't say the trust factor is not there. We have made some tough decisions. And you know what tough decisions equal to? Progress. So I think it could have happened. But going forward, look, I don't know if a year from now is the answer because, we were told now is not a good time. And I said it, 100 times, in different meetings we've had regarding the tax, that would have been on the ballot this year. When is it ever going to be a good time, right? So if we have a good economy, that's going to be another reason why it's not a good time. Because after all, we're taking in, record revenue with a good economy. Right. I just think that there can be a spin put on this any way you look at it. The bottom line is we are not going to improve our facilities without additional revenue, and that's the bottom line. And if that's the route we want to take, that's no problem. Our school system is going to continue to function. I'm going to continue to do the best job that I can for my district and the district as a whole. That's not going to change. But if we want to see better, we're going to have to do something about it. Now, I want to say, I didn't change my tune. I was saying that during the campaign, the whole year that I campaigned for this seat. So this is not a swap or a flip. I said this the whole time. I said it door to door, and look, no one told me differently for the most part.
With the situation with Lafayette High School, you have got that's the largest high school. You got so many students going there. Y'all are packing them in like sardines over there. We got to, at some point, we got to do something. But do you already think it's already reached critical mass? Or like you said a minute ago, are things just going to keep moving along?
No, look, we are going to do some rezoning. Mike Hefner, a demographer, is looking at this, as we speak, and I think that it's going to be uncomfortable for many folks in the parish, and that is very unfortunate. But the bottom line is when you have schools that are half capacity and you have others that are, like you said, it's already reached that critical mass. It's a sardine situation. We've got to do something about it. It's unfair. I mean, we hear a lot of reasons why we shouldn't be talking about rezoning, but we never look at and say, hey, look, we're piling these students in classrooms. We were talking about pupil-teacher ratio last night at the meeting. I would consider that to be a very, very interesting topic. That's probably the hardest decision I've made yet as a school board member. Last year was to increase pupil-teacher ratio. This year, we were looking at maybe reducing pupil-teacher ratio, and that wasn't able to move forward. Okay, that was an issue we talked about last night.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line about it is, in my district, many of the schools don't have classrooms left. So let's assume that the pupil-teacher ratio is kind of over what we have it set at. Well, it's really hard to add another teacher when you don't have another classroom to put them in. So we have serious issues across the parish, primarily here in District 9, because of the population growth. And we have to make some shifts in order for these students to have the best possible, opportunity to get a good education.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair to pile these kids in the classroom like sardines. Yes, rezoning is uncomfortable, but what's most important? So that's what we're facing within the next couple of years.
Lafayette City Parish School Board member Jeremy Hidalgo, thank you for having the conversation and being so frank with us. I think it's a good way for people to learn more information and hear about what's going on.
Did I lose you?
Nope, you're there. I'm there. You still there? Oh, maybe his phone is going now. Well,
yeah.
We're
Bernie, I think I lost you.
Yeah, probably so. But I'll call you back and let you know that it all went
well.
That
it was great on a St.
perfect
Patrick's
timing.
Day.
and poor Jeremy, he doesn't know about the strange things happening with our phone lines this morning.
Yeah, it's definitely St. Patrick's Day here. Gosh, always good just to hear some insight from someone who sits in on those meetings.
Yep.
Obviously, schools are so important, more than just what we drive past every single day. I mean, look, like we talked about going into the segment being Retired Teachers Day here in Louisiana. There is good, real stuff happening there.
Yep,
so,
right.
So we just have to get behind him. Thanks again to Jeremy Hidalgo for joining us this morning. 7:26. Bernie's going to handle all up on some news, weather, and traffic.
I shall.
Coming up.